think I feel very much the same way about Listen Up, Philip, that you do. And it was interesting listening to that interview because it sort of confirmed what I thought about it. So it is true that what it does is a brilliant portrayal of people who are obnoxious, and particularly in terms of the writer, who's played by Jason Schwartzman, and the mentor, Ike, who is played by Jonathan Pryce. And they both do remarkable work of portraying characters who are completely narcissistic, completely self-obsessed, speak, think, behave only of and about themselves. And it's a very, very sort of solipsistic world. And very early on, when I was watching the film, I started writing down some of the lines because there were these very sort of scabrous lines, things like, the ineffability of human disappointment and an infinitely replenishing prism of regret. And you start writing this down. After about the fourth, fifth, sixth, you give up because you realise that the script is, in fact, overburdened with these sort of drolleries. And about 30, 40 minutes into the narrative, the film does a little bit of a left turn, and the two writers sort of go off to the country retreat, and the film then goes back to Elizabeth Moss, to Ashley, to the girlfriend, and suddenly you feel this, everything lightens up because the incessant talking stops, and secondly because she's a likable character, and she is brilliantly played. Incidentally, it was interesting when he was talking in that interview about saying that during some of their confrontations there's this moment when she starts to tear up. But actually there are some of the most remarkable moments in the film are close-ups on her face, which have no dialogue at all. Like after he's just left the room, and the camera will sit and will hold on her face, and you'll see all these different conflicting emotions: triumph, sadness, despair, defeat, defiance, all going through. And that's a real masterclass. And the film is all inflected with this kind of 70s visual sensibility. I mean, the director and his cinematographer have talked about John Cassavetes, Woody Allen. Actually, Cassavetes, the film which they're talking about, which is 68, and Woody Allen, they specifically cite Husbands and Wives, which is 80s, but there's a kind of 70s inflection to the whole film. There's that lens flare that you get. There's that sort of smudgy focus that looks like everything sort of hand. It looks like somebody's actually in the room with them doing that. It looks very,
smudgy focus and lens flare.
Well, you know what lens flare is.
Yeah, but the thing that mainly makes it 70s is all the technology
is 70s to the point. Yeah, so there's
like
vinyl
word processors and things.
Yeah, and typewriters, electronic typewriters, and so you do end up sort of wondering exactly when this is set. My problem with it is this: on the poster it says "Think Woody Allen meets Wes Anderson." In fact, the signature for me was Noah Baumbach, and I mean early Noah Baumbach, not While We're Young, which I think is a very fine film, but early Noah Baumbach, which was unbelievably dyspeptic, and an awful lot of that kind of portrayal of people who are intellectual and academic and very, very full of their own self-worth, and who are funny because of it, because but whose company becomes wearying. And if I have a problem with Listen Up, Philip, I do slightly. It's that I think that it's not every now and then Alex Ross Perry gives his characters too much rope. What you really want is for the film almost to take some kind of stance on their obnoxiousness. And there comes a point when, particularly after you've had this time with Ashley and Elizabeth Moss, and you go back to spending time again with this misogynist, completely self-obsessed guy, that you just want them to stop. And you said something which was interesting, which was at the end of it, you thought, that's it, I don't ever want to spend any time in their company. No, that is a triumph. But it reminds me of something like Margot at the Wedding, when my patients, there are times when I think that he's giving them too much rope, and therefore rather than puncturing or piercing their solipsistic bubble, what he does is allow it to indulge. So I think it's very well made. I think visually it's an interesting film because I like that whole kind of that 70s sensibility, but it's certainly written with a pithy but I think the problem is I don't know that the writer-director dislikes the characters as much as I do.